edition of the Discourse, we will analyze China's latest map offensive. And joining me on the program today are Ambassador KP Fabian, career diplomat, Major General Ashwini Sivaj, retired strategic expert, and Dr. Ravi Prasad Narayanan, Center for East Asian Studies, JNU. Thank you to my guests for joining me on this edition of the Discourse. Ambassador, let me start the program with you first. Let's first try and understand and analyze this latest map offensive that we've seen from China's side. It's something that they keep doing every now and then. But this time around, is there anything different? Is there something that we need to be concerned about? How would you look at this in entirety?
Let me put it this way. You yourself were mentioning that, there could be a domestic reason for their having done this, and there could be external reasons also. To my mind, well, perhaps there is a domestic reason in the sense that their economy is not doing too well, and youth unemployment is going up. So there could be a domestic reason. But I think beyond that those domestic reasons, we also have to understand in depth China's attitude towards India. And as you said, this is not the first time they are committing this cartographic aggression. But the question is, why did they do it now? Why did they do it before G20? And why did they sort of combine it with Xi Jinping's not coming? To my mind, China believes, or China has concluded, that India is trying to get closer and closer to the United States, and that one day India might even try to get involved in the Taiwan matter. We know that the three chiefs had gone there recently, and the Chinese have reacted with considerable anger. That is one part of it. The second part of it is, we all speak of line of actual control, isn't it? Now, that is a very tricky notion, because when we signed those treaties to maintain peace and tranquility along the line of actual control, wasn't it in 1999? Narasimha Rao was the prime minister. To the treaty, no map was attached, showing the so-called line of actual control. And in this context, I want to remind the young readers that the line of actual control, which Chuen Lai, brought up with Jawaharlal Nehru, he had rejected it. Because this line of actual control does not make any sense. Now coming to another factor, and that is China's basic attitude towards India. To my mind, China considers India as a younger sister who should be respectful and obedient to the elder one. And China wants to have a unipolar Asia to start with, and India stands in the way. So India has to be shown her place. So these are the complex considerations.
Thank you for so elaborately putting those complex issues into perspective for us and simplifying it for us, Ambassador. Very well done. Thank you so very much. General, let me bring you into the picture now. From a strategic point of view, how would you look at all of this? I mean, the timing is questionable, like the ambassador has just pointed out. G20 summit just around the corner. Xi Jinping has already said that he may not be attending the summit itself, and then so many other dynamics and equations have changed in the region in the recent past. So, how would you look at it?
Yeah, Frank, no doubt. What Ambassador told, I suppose all those points are very valid. Whether these are domestic reasons as to why the economy of China not doing well, and the supply chain also shifting from China, especially going to Indonesia, Vietnam, and coming to India. Decoupling also taking place, and semiconductor and chips may not be now going to come in China. Now, unemployment is very large, their economy is in recession, unsaid recession. At the top of that, they are now not only the economic region, the international region is very correctly brought out G20. Now, G20, what has happened is the stature which India has got it in last 1 year is formidable. The region is, India has just been successful in Chandrayaan-3, we have landed in a place which is a South Pole in Moon where no one else had dared to land. Russia tried by Lunar 25, which failed. So the stature of India has grown up mighty in the world. And this is not to the liking of China at all. And the second thing which has happened is that the way the G20 meeting has been organized in last 1 year, 60 meeting all over the country. And we have showcased to the whole world the diversity and the investment exposure which can be there in India. So this is not to the liking of China, and China tried to show India to its own place. China want to put pressure on India, no doubt about it. And that's how this is not the first time that they are showing Arunachal Pradesh as a southern Tibet and part of their own territory. So is also Aksai chain and Samdrangchu, and also the area which has been gifted by the Pakistan to China. But the timing is, of course, very important. But this time, another thing which is being added on to it, which we must realize it, that it has been also the South China Sea, Taiwan, as well as, the way he has made a line and artificially it created and tried to take almost 95% of exclusive economic zone of the South China Sea in Indo-Pacific. Now, this also has a very reason. It want to send a message to Asian country. If you are coming very close to US, then it is a one way or highway. So that is again a message. But this has gone in our favor because all these countries have now got together and they are challenging the hegemony of China. It is Philippines also, it is Malaysia also has adversely commented on this map. But certainly the China will do what it wants to do it. You cannot believe what China says and what it does. We have learned this lesson. They have met on the sidelines of BRICS. There was a small meeting between Xi Jinping and Prime Minister Modi, but it really doesn't make a difference. India has to be very, very careful. And rightfully, another issue which I fully agree with the ambassador, that of late they are thinking that we are trying to come very close to Taiwan. Our relationship are improving. We are now short of diplomatic relations. We are doing everything. And three chief who have recently retired a year or 2 years back going together, it cannot be coincidence. It has to be go ahead given by the government of the day. So this again is an issue. So overall, what China want to do it want to put the India on its own place. It want to show that they are the mighty in the Asia, and it is also that they are ready to challenge the hegemony of US. And it is also sending a message to India that if you are coming very close to US, you stand to lose, not gain. So overall, this was the basically a message which China want to send it. But I think India is very well prepared, and India will expose this bogey of China nice and proper. Frank.
All right, General, thank you so very much for pointing out all those important and crucial issues as well. All right, Ravi, let me come to you now. There has been a lot of churning within China as well of late. We've seen, the foreign minister or the former foreign minister going missing within China. No one really knows or has heard of him since. So that has been an issue as well. Now suddenly you have, China taking on a very aggressive role. China aggressively pushed for the expansion of BRICS as well, which is now being seen as a possible, alternative to take on the West as well. So, a lot of churning within China too. How would you look at all of this?
Thank you, Frank. Thank you, Ambassador Fabi and General Sivach. I agree completely. The difference I have to say is as follows. First, this entire map making of China is thoroughly illegal. China is trying to create its own international relations with Chinese characteristics, starting with map making. They have been continuing this for decades. Next issue here is Xi Jinping himself. General Sivach knows that the PLA is not comfortable with Xi Jinping, as he has no PLA background. So the PLA always uses map making before this gentleman's visits to South Asia, especially India. Third, the maps, if we study closely, we see they are now trying to encroach through their map with Chinese characteristics on even the small rivers in our Arunachal. They are preparing for a future conflict where they will decide how much water will flow in the Brahmaputra. Also, here we have to realize that Brahmaputra is an issue where India and Bangladesh have still to talk because of the Teesta water dispute. So it is time the two countries discussed their bilateral issues unless a third party decides what they should be deciding. Here, not surprisingly, let us look at Xi Jinping not just as the head of the Communist Party of China, as the president of China, chairman of the Central Military Commission, but he is hell-bent on creating his own faction. Let us look at the Communist Party of China as a party with so many factions that it is difficult for him to handle. And who is his media to reach out to the PLA? It's his wife, Hung Liyuan. Hung Liyuan retired as a brigadier general, and she was heading the PLA Arts University. Just before retirement, she became a major general. Her loyalties are still there with the old cadre. So he utilizes her and her connections with the PLA. Others the PLA don't like him. Regarding India, they were deeply worried about our Chandrayaan succeeding because to the Chinese, in their newspapers, mentions that India has capabilities of launching ICBMs, which means any place in China can be targeted. Of course, China will not say they have shared this technology which they have with their neighbor, North Korea. A country that can't feed its own people has missiles that can reach Hawaii. So we have to watch out for China here. Let us look at it in two different ways. First, the factional fighting continues within the Communist Party of China. It started ever since Xi Jinping abandoned the two-term limit of every president in China. Second is his trying to reassign Tibet as a new region for the PLA. Earlier, their general used to report to Chengdu, where their Western Division was based. But now, Chengdu is upset that Tibet, whoever is a general there, has more autonomy. So there are these inter-service rivalries, inter-party rivalries. And Xi Jinping, he is going through a phase where their economy is stagnating. Millions of unemployed and underemployed people who are complaining of receiving lesser wages. Absolutely. So they have their own economic problems. I'm sorry, because normally when I take classes, they are for 3 hours. So I'm sorry. Yeah,
No, absolutely. I think you summed it up so very well in the limited time, Ravi. I think no one could have done it better. And your expertise on the matter and your expertise on China very clearly coming out there and giving us a glimpse of it as to what exactly is happening on the ground in China. Ambassador, let me come back to you now. Let's try and understand one more aspect. Let's try to look at what India should be doing as far as all of this is concerned, and should we be concerned? Number one, should we do something diplomatically? Number two, and what's the best way in tackling this present situation?
Okay, I think we have to respond, but we have to respond in a measured manner because it's not the first time they have done it. And also, I am a little less than informed because the media said that India has protested. Now, I want to ask you, how did we protest? Did we protest by our spokesperson coming out with a statement saying that we have protested? Or did we summon the Chinese ambassador? Or did our ambassador in Beijing go and protest at the Foreign Office? It's not clear to me because I've been traveling. I was in Maldives, so I don't know.
None of that has actually happened, Ambassador.
Yeah, but at the same time, I hold the view that we should have a measured reaction to set the record straight rather than do anything which will provoke China into doing more. Because, Chinese are very sensitive and they get easily provoked. So it is not not in our interest. Basically, our policy should be at the border where they are sort of encroaching, we should stand firm and do whatever we have to do, even counter encroach. You know what I mean? Whatever we have to do, we should do that, and which I hope we have been doing. Though there again, I'm sorry, I don't know the facts because it seems they have encroached upon a certain, X square kilometers. So that we have to be very, what shall I say, very strong. We sort of guard our territory with utmost strength. But as regards making public statements and this and that, I would say it is necessary in a democratic country for the Foreign Office to come out with statements when another country says certain things. But nevertheless, that should not be the only consideration. That is taking care of the domestic constituency. We also have to see how the other side will respond. So that is why, in my view, the response should be measured. We don't gain anything by escalating the controversy.
Absolutely. Measured response, because at the end of the day, we don't want to further sensitize whatever has been going wrong between India and China. Talking about that, General, let's also understand another aspect here, because we saw that they've built underground bunkers and underground tunnels in Aksai Chin as well, and that is a major concern area because we've had what, maybe 19 rounds of border talks between the two nations, and we've always been talking about how there has been ever so slight progress each time these border talks have taken place. And then suddenly you have this imagery that comes out where there are underground bunkers and there has been progression on the border or border encroachment from the Chinese side. So, how big of concern is that, and how should we respond as far as these kind of issues are concerned?
Very correct. Frank, no doubt. Once the China came in April, May 2020 with 3 divisions, obviously they almost surprised India because we always thought that they will abide by the protocols and agreements of 95, 96, 2012 and 13. But they sort of overlooked that and they came with troops almost about 3 divisions with heavy armor and artillery. But that is also a fact. Within 1 month, there was a mirror image deployment by India, and India was stronger than China at that point of time in terms of weapon system, in terms of your air power, and in terms of your naval power. Having said so, what is now the situation prevailing on a line of actual control between both the nations? As very rightly brought out, there have been 19 core commander meetings which have taken place, and this has only succeeded in partial disengagement. And to the extent it has taken place north and south of Pangangsu, Gogra, Hot Spring, and Galwan. Dapsang and Dapchok is again not being addressed so far. And Dapsang, to me, it looks like that the chances of China going back in Dapsang are very less. The reason is simple. It is give them a statistical advantage of coming closer to Indian line of actual control of 1959 claim line, because they can directly address Nubra Valley and Saichen Glacier bypassing DBO. And this is the only sector where there can be collusion between China and Pakistan. The China from east, from Aksai Chin, and Pakistan from west, from Gilgit, Pakistan, can sandwich Nubra Valley and also the Sichuan Glacier. At the same time, this area gives us also a tremendous strategic advantage to an extent that we can directly address Karakoram Highway and interdict the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, as well as the Western highways from Xinjiang to Lhasa. So this is strategically more important to both of us. When they came in April 2020, what was the reason as to why did they do what they did? They basically were slightly worried when we made Darbuk Shok Daulatbeg Old Road. That road is a high class 24 class road, and Chinese were thinking that we have built up this road to now address excitation. And that is what is a cause of worry to China. China thought that we are now trying to come toward east and try to now address excitation and their western highway. That put them on a jinx, and that's why they possibly came. And we knew that this Darbuk Shok Daulatbeg Road can be interdicted by Chinese. We have made an alternate route to that through a Sosoma, Sesarla, and Dibio through a glaciated terrain. So the question comes is, are we prepared? Yes, we are prepared. Now from April 20 to this time, we are now progressing very fast. Our infrastructure has come, our roads have come. We have made tunnel, we have made bridges, we have made a logistic buildup. So have the Chinese. And Chinese, now the question is, they have made two bridges on North Pangangso to address their movement routes from north to south. They have upgraded their airfield and they have made a tunnel defenses, and they have made basically tunnel type of defenses to even keep their aircraft inside. Why did they do though? They did it because they are very much worried about the air power which we have. They feel that the Indian air power, Indian artillery, Indian missile, Indian rocket will ensure that the Chinese, within about 4 to 5 days of start of hostility, will become totally inactive by our accurate firing. And that's why they have done this, what they have done it. Because the question comes is, after we have got Rafale to squadron, the air power superiority has shifted toward India's side. You imagine the type of aircraft we have in our inventory: Mirage 2000, MiG-29, Jaguar, Sukhoi 30 MKI, Apache attack helicopter, and two more squadron of Rafale coming at 4.5 generation have really kept the Chinese on the spin. So the Chinese are also feeling a heat of it. They are defensive. They are not offensive. Another mindset which has changed place in last about 3 to 4 years is that every time we were talking it, that if the Chinese come, we are going to defend like this. We have changed the statement. We can also have a capability of going into China. We raise a 17 strike corps, which is an offensive corps, and we moved one offensive corps from the western sector to another sector. So we have two offensive corps with the correct clearance that if something has to be done, we can also go into Tibet Autonomous Region. So that has changed the complete equation. And Chinese are now worried, and that's why all these are defensive measures which Chinese are taking, making a village defense, new village defense council very close to line of control. They are nothing else but the not border towns, but also the defended locality. They make it defense. To me, it looks like that China is equally worried about the capability and capacity of India in last about 5 to 10 years. And that goes in our favor, that we are not now at the mercy of China. Only my worry is one factor, Frank, just 1 minute, that dependence on Russia, almost about 50 to 60% of weapons, is a cause of concern, because as this war, Russia-Ukraine war carry on, the dependence of Russia on China will increase, our leeway will reduce. So therefore, we have to find more, first is that make maximum weapon arsenal, which we are doing it, and also now go for weapons from US, Germany, US, Israel, France, and South Korea and Japan, rather than now depending on Russia. We are even worried that we will be able to get 3 months of spare parts in case eventuality take place between India and China. So therefore, the question comes is, one is that we are well prepared. We are aware what China can do, but our now dependence from Russia will reduce and will go toward the western side, and you will find it slowly and steadily. We will become a very strong power in collusion with the Quad, which is coming in Indo-Pacific, and we can challenge now China. We have a capability to look into China and speak in a manner which they understand, the language which they understand. Frank.
Absolutely. All right, General, suggesting there that there's absolutely nothing to worry about as far as border encroachment and border issues are concerned. We need to see China eye to eye because we are ready for any eventuality. All right, Ravi, let me bring you into the picture now. Are the equations within Asia, Asia Pacific, and Southern Asia changing? That is one. And the global world order as well. Are we seeing a churn and hence a Chinese reaction to all of that?
Yes, the churning is taking place ever since the United States has left Afghanistan. The general perception is that the US has always left when a situation is too problematic. We go back to the George Bush Jr. years. It seems Saddam Hussein had hosted Osama, and the troops of the United States were there for more than a decade, and they withdrew. Before that, 1982, one suicide bomber, he killed 200 plus American troops in Beirut, and the US withdrew overnight. Before that, Vietnam. So the perception is that when it gets too hot, the Americans withdraw. Second, when it comes to new institutions, China will be very happy to create new security architecture. They have tried their best when it comes to financial global architecture. What is the BRICS Bank, NDB? What is this ICBC? All those banks all about? Countries like Sri Lanka are cribbing that the interest rates they are paying are much more than what they pay Washington, IMF, and World Bank. For us, the biggest problem is China has always got a plan B. The plan B is politico-religious when it comes to India. They know very well that the Dalai Lama is 88 years old and he does not have much time left. So their advancement or fake map making is to claim more land, which they'll say is their Tibet. Checking history, it has never been their Tibet. What we need to do is we have to countermand what they have been saying by bringing out real maps of what was Tibet. The provinces in China, like Qinghai, what was that province before 1949? What about what they call Nemungu, Inner Mongolia, and Mongolia? People are Buddhists in these parts. They speak mostly Tibetan language and variations of Tibetan. The problem we have is after the current Dalai Lama passes away, the Chinese have already decided who should be the next Dalai Lama. So we'll have a communist Dalai Lama. Next, more worrying is close to 50,000 plus Tibetans based the world over have returned to mainland China. Why? They have been assured they will not be harassed and they have to be part of Tibet's economic development. Some say that the new villages which they have constructed are where these Tibetans are going to be staying. No confirmation about that. My sources, I have to get it through other places. The contacts in China, they have to send email to European Union and United States, and they send it through a different mail, which I receive on a different mail. So I have to cross-check and see what is valid and what is invalid. But the fact is, we have to be worried also about certain aspects. I'm sorry, General Sivach is not here, but we have to watch, sadly, the Gorkhas in Nepal. Since we went in for this Agniveer recruitment, there's been a lot of resentment in Nepal because the pensions we provided, the salaries which we used to give to the Gorkha rifles, Jawans, it used to support around 14% plus of their GDP annually. So they are really worried. Now the thing is, will these Gorkhas be taken by the PLA? Do not rule that out because some parts of the high mountains which the PLA had occupied was with the assistance of Tibetans based in Tibetan China. Because Chinese Han do not have the lung capacity and also high altitude warfare capabilities, but they managed it. And what we need is, we need to have our border states discussing the issue of Tibet, our Ladakh, parts of Himachal, Uttarakhand, Sikkim, Arunachal. They all have to be brought on board to discuss. It is a local issue. A personal digression here. The last time one went to Kinnaur, the people there, the shop owners, they were saying every year there are more shops on the other side, and they all want to trade. This is worrying. But what happens in faraway Kinnaur? How can it be decided by people sitting around a table in South Block? It makes no sense because foreign policy is an aspect which we, as a parliamentary democracy, have to bring to the table and discuss. Tamil Nadu, the issue of Kachativa is increasing, but nobody cares here. And also, let's begin with our neighboring state, our dearest friend, Pakistan. Why do we have diplomats who don't speak the local language, Urdu? In China, we do have an ambassador who speaks, I'm afraid to say, a little bit of Chinese. But on a CV, he will not mention that he had a posting in Taiwan. Why not? What are we scared of? Ambassador Rawat, he was there in Taiwan when I happened to be working there. And he was very quiescent, a proper diplomat. This is what worries us, which is why India's not being forthcoming in foreign policy has made Bhutan discuss boundary settlement with China.
Right.
Even if it means giving up land. And we should introduce the concept of how did Argentina and Chile discuss the boundary settlement on the high altitude mountain range. The tallest mountain there, Aconcagua, they decided to separate that mountain where it is largely with Chile. And they've not fought a war. They don't have troops there. They do have economic differences. That's fine. Yes.
Absolutely.
So I'll end here. Sorry.
Absolutely. No, I think that's a very valid point, and I really like the the point that you made about how to localize the entire issue as such, because it's very difficult for us to make policy sitting in Delhi, knowing exactly what's happening on the ground in Kinnaur. So involving the states in foreign policy and trying to get the best out of the entire situation, I think is a very, very valid point, and I hope we move in that direction and we take some of those other issues too seriously. All right, time to get quick closing comments now with all my guests. Let me start with you, Ambassador. So let's start with the best way forward and what next.
Okay, thank you. This time I have unmuted myself with more success. Now, I think we should also look at the big picture, the geopolitical picture. Thanks to President Biden, well, I don't mean to thank him because he has messed it up, but because of President Biden's policies, the axis between Russia and China is getting stronger. And we have reason to believe that Iran might join them. And you can look at the map, how bad it is for us in India. an axis between, China, Russia, and Iran. That's point number one. Now, as regards our policy, I think we should have what one may call, you can call it non-alignment or you can call it multi-alignment. And there, I think we should be clear in our understanding of the big picture. The Western pundits say that, Russia is a junior partner of China. Well, I see the point in terms of economy, but let us not forget, Xi Jinping wants to get Taiwan in, and he is prepared to take military means for that purpose. There, he is utterly dependent on President Putin. So it is not a junior partnership. And while we should diversify the sources of defense equipment and technology we get, Russia is still important. Diplomacy means dancing with more than one partner at a time.
I love that phrase. Diplomacy means dancing with more than one partner at a time. And I hope that that dance is successful and we move gracefully into the future, keeping that in mind. All right, Ravi, close the show for us with your quick concluding remarks.
Yes, China-India relations need to be discussed thoroughly. First, within our country. Second is when high-level visits do not take place between the two sides. That is worrying. Third, we need to increase our technological aspects so that beyond Chandrayaan, we go into space and also have a very important, you could say, role to play in what is going to be space law in the future. The UNCLOS has been subverted by the High Seas Treaty, where the West wants to have deep sea drilling for rare metals and earths. Next would be the space, because we are shifting toward digital world. Do we need the Western world to decide what will that digital world be? We need to play a very important role. As for G20, if it works out, very good. But let's not forget, within the G20, there is the G5, the G7, and the G14 also. So it's a group with many groups within. So it's like, sorry to joke a bit, it is a lot like Afghan factional feuds taking place on ethnic grounds. That is how these groups are. So G20 is for diplomats today another talking shop.
All right, gentlemen, we'll have to leave it at that. Thank you so much for joining me on the program and putting things into perspective for us. It was a wonderful, wonderful discussion.